The sky changed one day, not with storms or clouds, but with something no one on Earth had ever seen before. A fleet of huge ships appeared above the planet. They were not made by any human hand. They were long, dark, and silent as ghosts. They hovered over major cities like watchers, not invaders. Yet people looked up. Some ran. Others filmed. Scientists dropped their coffee. Governments called emergency meetings. For the first time in history, the world was looking at the same thing and asking the same question. Who are they? The aliens called themselves the Ziran Dominion. They sent a message in perfect English. It said, "We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders." No one knew what to do. Most thought this was a prank. But when the ships started landing in open fields near major capitals, people realized this was real. The United Nations quickly formed a team. They needed someone calm, smart, and strong enough to meet these beings face to face. The job went to Daniel Reyes, a former Navy officer with a steady voice and a mind like steel. Beside him stood Lena Porter, a linguist who spoke 6 languages and could read body language better than most diplomats. They met the Ziran in a field outside New York. The air was cold. The grass was wet from morning rain. The Ziran stepped out of their ship like statues, tall, pale, with eyes that glowed faintly in the gray light. Their leader, called the emissary, spoke first. He did not smile. He did not bow. He expected to be greeted with respect. Instead, Daniel offered his hand. The emissary paused. Then he took it, though slowly. "Welcome to Earth," Daniel said. The emissary tilted his head. "You are not afraid? Should I be?" There was silence. Then the emissary turned to Lena. "You are the speaker?" She nodded. "I am." He studied her. "Your kind learns fast. We learn when we have to," she replied. The talks began. The Ziran were polite but distant. They spoke in formal tones, expecting the humans to listen and obey. But Daniel and Lena didn't play along. They asked hard questions. They demanded equality. They refused to be treated like children. "You are primitive," the emissary said during one meeting. "But you are interesting." Daniel smiled. "Interesting can win wars." The emissary blinked slowly. "You think of war so soon?" "I think of survival," Daniel said. "Always." Meanwhile, back in the cities, the world was changing. People watched the meetings online. They saw how their leaders stood tall. They saw how they did not beg or cry. They saw strength. Scientists got to work. They studied the Ziran tech left behind after each visit. Small things, broken tools, dropped parts, stray wires. Within days, they had copied some of it. Within weeks, they had improved it. Lena cracked the Ziran language faster than anyone thought possible. She noticed patterns, sounds, meanings hidden in speech. She taught others. Soon a whole team of linguists could understand the aliens better than the aliens expected. One night, Daniel played chess with the emissary. The Ziran thought it would be easy. He had centuries of knowledge. But Daniel learned the game the night before, and he won. The emissary stared at the board. "How?" "Humans adapt," Daniel said simply. By the end of the first week, the Ziran were no longer sure who was studying whom. They had expected fear. They found courage. They had expected obedience. They found defiance. And for the first time in their long history, the Ziran felt something unfamiliar. Unease. The Ziran stayed longer than expected. They had come to observe, to test, to decide if humans were worth more attention. What they found was not what they had hoped for. Daniel Reyes and Lena Porter met with the emissary every day. Talks were long and tense. The Ziran spoke like rulers, as if their word was law. But Daniel and Lena did not bow or agree without reason. They asked questions that made the emissary pause. They challenged ideas that no other species had ever dared to question. One morning, a small Ziran shuttle landed near a research base in Colorado. 2 scientists, Eli Morgan and Maya Torres, were among the first to greet it. They watched as the aliens stepped out, scanning the area with glowing eyes. One of them dropped a small device by mistake. It rolled on the ground and sparked once. Before going silent, Eli picked it up. He looked at the Zirin. They did not ask for it back. They only watched. After the aliens left, Eli and Maya took the device inside. Within hours, they had opened it. Within days, they understood how it worked. Within a week, they had built a copy. Meanwhile, the emissary grew tired of human stubbornness. "You do not understand your place," he told Daniel during a meeting. "We have seen thousands of species. None speak to us like you do." "Maybe. We're just different," Daniel replied. "Different can be dangerous," the emissary warned. "So can underestimating us," Lena added. As the days passed, the Zirin began to feel more like guests under watch than visitors in charge. Wherever they went, people followed. Not with fear, but with curiosity. Children waved at them. Some even laughed when one Zirin tripped over a curb. The aliens were not used to being laughed at. On the 7th day, something changed. A group of Zirin engineers visited a military base in Texas. They were shown old fighter jets, broken drones, and old missile systems. One of them, a tall Zirin named Vikor, pointed at a rusted jet and said, "This is weak." A young pilot named Karen, Belle stood nearby. She smiled. "It might look weak to you, but we built it ourselves. We didn't wait for someone to give it to us." Vikor turned to her. "Your kind builds fast." "We learn fast," she said, "and we never stop." That night, Lena sat with Daniel in a quiet room. She looked tired. "They don't know what to do with us," she said. "Good," Daniel replied. "Let them wonder." The next day, the emissary tried a new approach. He invited Daniel to his ship. It was a test. Most leaders would be impressed, maybe even scared. But Daniel walked through the halls like he owned them. He touched walls, asked questions, and stared into cameras like he knew someone was watching. He was right. Back on Earth, reports came in. The Zirin had been seen arguing among themselves. Some wanted to leave. Others wanted to stay and learn more. One message was intercepted by a team in Norway. It said, "Caution advised, humans show signs of rapid adaptation." No one had ever said that about humans before. Later that week, the emissary challenged Daniel to another game of chess. This time, he won. Daniel clapped him on the shoulder. "Not bad," he said, "but I bet you still don't know how to play poker." The emissary blinked slowly. "What is poker?" Daniel grinned. "Never mind. You'll figure it out eventually." The Zirin left soon after. They said they needed time to think. As their ships lifted off, many on Earth watched them go. Some felt relief. Others felt pride. Something had changed. The galaxy had noticed humanity, and humanity had noticed the galaxy. And for the first time, they were ready to play on equal ground. The peace did not last long. It was broken by a single shot. A Zirin patrol ship had been orbiting Mars, watching human activity near one of the new space stations. It was supposed to be a quiet mission, but something went wrong. Without warning, the ship fired on a civilian transport. The humans called it the Liberty One. It was carrying scientists and engineers. No weapons, no soldiers. The attack came fast. The ship burned. Over 100 people died. The message reached Earth within minutes. Anger followed. Daniel Reyes stood in front of a crowd of reporters. His face was hard. His voice was calm, but there was fire behind his eyes. "This was not an accident," he said. "It was a choice." Lena Porter sat with him. She looked at the footage again and again. The Zirin had made a mistake. They thought they could hurt humans and walk away. She knew better. Within hours, the United Nations held an emergency meeting. Some leaders wanted to talk. Others wanted revenge. Daniel chose something else. He gave a single order. "Show them we are not afraid." The response came quickly. From hidden bases on the moon and in orbit, new weapons were tested. Railgun satellites built in secret fired across space. Their targets were clear. Zirin scout ships vanished from the skies. On board one of those ships, the crew barely had time to send a distress call before they were hit. The damage was precise, not total destruction, just enough to make a point. We can see you, we can reach you, and we will fight back. Back on Earth, the world watched. Some feared what would come next. Others felt something deeper. Pride. People who had once been scared now stood tall. Students talked about the attack in schools. Workers built faster. Scientists worked through the night. In Colorado, Eli Morgan and Maya Torres studied more Xeran tech. They found weaknesses. They shared what they learned with anyone who asked. In Texas, Karen Bell trained pilots. They think we're slow, she told them. We'll make them regret that mistake. The emissary sent a message. He said the attack on Liberty 1 was a mistake, a system error, a misunderstanding. No one believed him. Daniel replied with a short message. You came here thinking we were weak. Now you know better. The Xeran tried to act like nothing had changed. But things had. Their ships moved slower. They watched more carefully. They no longer hovered above cities like gods. They started to look like intruders. One day, a Xeran officer spoke to a human engineer named Jason Cruz. They were working on a joint project, or so the Xeran thought. Why do you keep fighting? The officer asked. Jason looked up. Because we always have. The officer stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned away. Back in space, the tension grew. The Xeran gathered more ships near Earth's orbit. They thought this would scare the humans. It didn't. Instead, the humans prepared, not for war, but for survival. And when the first real battle came, it would not be on the Xeran's terms. It would be on humanity's. Because unlike the other species the Xeran had met, humans did not wait to be saved. They fought, they adapted, and they never forgot who had struck the first blow. The battle began not with a grand speech, but with a single shot fired in space. A Xeran warship opened fire on a human research station near Europa. It was supposed to be a warning. Instead, it became a declaration. Within hours, Earth responded, not with panic, not with fear, but with action. Daniel Reyes stood in a command center beneath Colorado Springs. The room was dark, filled with maps, screens, and voices speaking fast. He listened. He watched. Then he gave the order. Show them what we can do. The humans had no massive fleets, no ancient weapons passed down through generations. They had something better. Ingenuity. On the moon, hidden bases lit up like stars. Ships that had been called obsolete were refitted with new tech. Railguns, drones, and old missiles got upgrades from mines that refused to quit. In Texas, Karen Bell led a team of pilots into orbit. Their ships were small, fast, and full of surprises. They did not wait for orders. They moved first. Near Europa, the first clash took place. Xeran cruisers moved in formation, confident. They expected easy targets. What they found were ghosts. Small, human fighters came out of the ice geysers of the moon. They struck fast and disappeared before sensors could lock on. One cruiser lost power in seconds. Another drifted silently after an explosion tore through its side. Back on Earth, Lena Porter sat in a secure room with a group of linguists and hackers. They had spent weeks studying Xeran systems. Now, they put their knowledge to use. They sent a message, not to humans, to Xeran ships. It was simple. You are not alone. As the message spread, confusion grew among the alien crews. Some ships reported strange behavior in their computers. Systems shut down. Weapons failed. Navigation went wild. Elijah Morgan and Maya Torres had built the virus. It was quiet, smart, and deadly in its own way. It did not destroy ships. It made them doubt themselves. The Xeran thought they were fighting a weak species. Now they were losing control of their own machines. On board a Xeran command ship, an officer named Vekor stared at his screen. His voice was tight with disbelief. How? Are they doing this? No one answered, because no one knew. On Earth, people watched the battle unfold on live feeds. They saw clips of human fighters dodging enemy fire. They heard radio calls from pilots who laughed even as they fought. One pilot said, "They think we're scared. Let's show them we're angry." Cheers rose in streets, schools, and homes. This was not the first time humans had faced impossible odds, and it would not be the last. Meanwhile, Daniel Reyes met with military leaders. He did not ask for more weapons. He asked for more ideas. "We don't need to match them," he said. "We need to beat them." Guerrilla tactics returned to space. Drone swarms attacked in waves. Fake signals confused enemy radars. Even EMPs were used, crude, short-range, but effective when needed. The Xeran were used to wars where size and strength decided the winner. Humans played by different rules. They fought smarter, they adapted faster, and most importantly, they never stopped thinking. After days of fighting, the Xeran High Command received a message from their fleet commander. It was short. "These humans do not fight like others. They do not stop. They do not break." There was silence in the halls of power across the galaxy. For the first time, the Xeran Dominion was not sure if they could win, because they had never faced a species that turned every loss into a lesson, and every lesson into a weapon. The war had begun, and it was not going how the Xeran expected. They had fought many battles across the stars. They had crushed rebellions before they started. They had ruled for centuries with strength and silence. But Earth was different. The humans did not break when their cities burned. They did not stop when their ships were destroyed. They did not cry for peace. They cried for more weapons, better plans, and another chance to fight. In Los Angeles, a building collapsed after a stray Xeran missile hit a power station. Fires spread. People ran. But even as smoke filled the sky, others ran toward the wreckage, not to escape, but to help. On the East Coast, Daniel Reyes stood in front of a crowd of soldiers, scientists, and workers. He spoke slowly, clearly. "Knew this would be hard," he said. "We knew we would lose people, but we also knew one thing. If we show them weakness, they will take everything. So we don't show fear, we show fire." The crowd cheered. Back in orbit, the battle raged on. Human fighters used old tricks in new ways. They hid behind asteroids. They used debris fields like shields. They struck fast and disappeared before the Xeran could react. Karen Bell led a strike team near Jupiter's orbit. Her ships were small but fast. They hit a Xeran supply line and vanished before help could arrive. "They think we need big ships," she told her crew. "But we just need smart ones." Meanwhile, Lena Porter worked with a team of hackers and linguists. They studied every message the Xeran sent. They learned how the aliens thought, how they gave orders, how they reacted under pressure, and they used that knowledge. One night, they sent a fake signal to a Xeran fleet near Mars. It sounded like a command from their own leaders. The fleet turned and left, and just like that, no battle, no bloodshed. Just clever minds winning a war without firing a shot. Back on Earth, life changed. People built bunkers. Schools moved underground. Farms grew food in tall towers lit by lights instead of sun. Children still went to school. Parents still raised families. Lovers still met in secret. Life went on, because that was what humans did. Even when the sky burned, they kept going. Then came the attack on New York. A Xeran bomber dropped a weapon that tore through the city. Whole blocks were gone in seconds. Thousands died. The world watched the footage, and something inside humanity hardened. Videos spread across the net. Clips of pilots saying goodbye to families, of engineers working through the night, of soldiers writing letters they might never send. One video went viral. It showed a young soldier named Jason Cruz standing in front of a broken ship. He looked into the camera and said, "They think we'll stop because they hurt us. They're wrong. We fight harder now." Across the world, people repeated his words. "We fight harder now." Daniel Reyes received death threats from both sides. Some humans thought he should surrender. Some Xeran wanted him dead, but he kept going. His security team, led by ex-Marine Karen Bell, stopped an assassin outside a meeting in Canada. The killer was Xeran, but he spoke perfect English. "You do not understand," the assassin said, before being taken away. "Your kind cannot win." Daniel looked at him and smiled. "Maybe not," he said. but we can make you wish you never tried. The war was far from over. But the message was clear. Humans were not backing down. Not today, not ever. The Ziran High Command sat in silence. Their war with Earth had gone longer than expected. Their ships were damaged. Their crews were tired. And worst of all, their enemies were not breaking. They had seen many species fall under pressure. Some begged for peace. Others fled. But humans did something else. They fought harder. After the attack on New York, human resistance grew stronger. More volunteers joined the fight. Factories worked non-stop. Every loss became a reason to push forward. Daniel, Rhea stood on a balcony above a ruined city. Smoke still rose from broken buildings. People walked below, carrying supplies, fixing what they could. He watched them for a long time. A voice came behind him. "They want to talk," Lena Porter said. He turned. "Who?" "The Ziran." He raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "Peace," she said. "Or at least a way out." He looked back at the city. "They started this war thinking we'd fold, now they're scared." She stepped beside him. "They've never met anyone like us." He nodded. "Good." Back in orbit, the Ziran fleet gathered near Mars. Messages flew between ships. Debates filled the air. Should they keep fighting? Or should they leave? Some commanders argued that Earth was too far from their core systems. It cost too much to hold. Others feared what would happen if they left. "If we walk away," one officer said, "others will see weakness." Another replied, "If we stay, we lose more than just ships." Meanwhile, on Earth, leaders met in secret. Daniel and Lena led the talks. They knew the Ziran wanted to end things, but not on their terms. The human offer was simple. Leave Sol. System, never come back. No apologies, no trade. Just go. One Ziran diplomat tried to argue. "You must understand our position. We cannot simply vanish." Daniel leaned forward. "You came here thinking you could take control. You failed. Now you have two choices. Leave, or keep losing." The diplomat stared at him. "You don't get to decide how this ends," Daniel added. "We do." The message went back to the Ziran High Command, and after days of debate, they made their choice. They would leave. Not as the Ziran left quietly. No speeches. No farewells. Just silence and empty space where their ships once floated. On Earth, people watched as the alien fleet pulled back. Some cheered. Others simply stared at the sky, unsure what to feel. It was over, but not really. Daniel Reyes stood on a hill outside Colorado Springs. He looked up at the stars and smiled just a little. "They're gone," Lena Porter said beside him. "For now," he replied. She crossed her arms. "You don't think they'll come back?" He shrugged. "Maybe. But next time, we'll be ready." Back on Earth, life began to change again. Cities started to rebuild, schools reopened, families returned home. But something had shifted. Humans were no longer alone in the galaxy, and they were no longer seen as weak. In the years that followed, stories of the war spread across the world. They became legends, videos of pilots dodging enemy fire, messages sent by soldiers before they died, speeches given by leaders who refused to give up. One message played over and over online. A short clip of Daniel Reyes speaking to the world during the darkest days of the war. "They came here thinking we'd bow. We showed them we could fight, and now we show the universe who we really are." Officers trained new pilots. Engineers built better ships. Scientists studied the tech they had taken from the Ziran, not for revenge, but for readiness. In Texas, Karen Bell ran a training school for space pilots. She taught them how to fly, how to fight, and most importantly, how to think. "Don't wait for orders," she told them. "Make your own." In Colorado, Eli Morgan and Maya Torres led a team that worked on long-range engines. They wanted to go beyond the solar system, not just to run, but to explore. Lena started a new program. It was called the Interstellar Linguistics Corps. Its job was simple: understand other species before they understood us. And Daniel? He stepped back. He didn't want power. He didn't want fame. He had done his part. Years passed. The Xiran never returned. But word of their defeat spread far beyond Sol. On distant mining colonies, workers whispered about the humans who had beaten the mighty empire. On rebel worlds, fighters looked at Earth and saw hope. And on a small moon near the edge of known space, a child sat in a dusty room, watching old footage of the war. His eyes were wide. His voice was soft. One day, we'll be like them. Meanwhile, on Earth, a new kind of mission began. Not war, not fear, but flight. Human ships left the solar system for the first time, not as refugees, not as conquerors, but as explorers, and as they moved into the dark, one thing was clear. The galaxy had met humanity, and it would never forget. Because humans did not just survive. They stood tall, they fought back, and they proved to every star in the sky. They were here to stay.